I've farmed professionally for 30 years. Droughts, late freezes, back-to-back early frosts, and the single biggest mistake backyard gardeners make has nothing to do with their soil, their seeds, or their effort. It's their calendar. Last October, I pulled a full pound of sweet, crispy carrots from frozen ground in 28-degree weather, while my neighbors were inside paying $6 a bag at the grocery store. Here's what you've been doing. You wait for spring, you prep the bed in April, drop your seeds, battle weeds and bugs all summer, get maybe 6 good weeks of harvest, then the first cold snap hits, and you shut everything down. 6 months of waiting, 6 months of store-bought produce trucked 2,000 miles, 6 months of that garden sitting right outside your door, doing nothing. Spring planting is not the beginning of your garden season, it's the middle. Almost no one in the backyard gardening world is saying that out loud. This is the exact framework I use professionally, the same system organic farmer and researcher Elliot Coleman independently documented over 50 years in coastal Maine, where temps hit -20 Fahrenheit without a single dollar spent on heating. 2 professionals, same methods, decades of proof. This is not a trend. This is not something I found online. This is how serious growers have always operated. And today, I'm handing it to you. Here's what's ahead. Section 3. Why fall vegetables taste dramatically sweeter than anything you pulled all summer. The reason is happening right now, inside the plant. Section 6, the timing formula almost every backyard gardener gets wrong. One mistake here, and your entire winter garden fails before Thanksgiving. Section 9, the under $30 setup that shifts your backyard microclimate by 3 full USDA hardiness zones. No heating bill, no greenhouse. Before we go further, drop a comment right now. Are you currently growing anything in fall or winter? Just say yes or not yet. I read every single one. Why is spring the hardest season? Think about what you actually do every spring. You walk out in April. Soil is soaking wet, cold, dense, heavy. You start digging anyway because that's what you've always done. But soil research from the Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District shows exactly what that does. It compacts the ground. Wet soil has high pore pressure. Every time you step on it, every time you run a trowel through it, you collapse the tiny air pockets that roots need to breathe and grow deep. You're making the soil worse before you plant a single seed. Then the seeds go in. And so does every weed in your zip code. Warm season weeds germinate just as fast as your vegetables, and they're stronger. Built for this exact window. You plant spinach, they plant themselves. You water your tomatoes, they water their crabgrass. June becomes a fight you didn't sign up for. And the insects, spring through summer is peak reproductive season for aphids, cabbage worms, squash vine borers, every pest that treats your garden like a food court. Moving fast, breeding fast, eating everything in sight. Every single one of those problems is gone by fall. Pest populations collapse when temperatures drop. Warm season weeds die off entirely. And fall soil? It's been warming all summer. Dry, stable. You can work it without damaging the structure underneath. Virginia Tech's extension research confirms it. Fall planted crops establish in the most favorable soil conditions of the entire year. Spring isn't the easy setting. Spring is the hard one. You've just been doing it so long, the struggle felt normal. What's the one thing that wrecks your spring garden every year? Weeds, pests, a late frost? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. The science behind cold sweetness. Here's what's happening inside your garden when the temperature drops. Below 41 degrees Fahrenheit, your plant's cellular membrane registers cold as a lethal threat. For good reason, water expands when it freezes. Ice crystals form inside the cells, rupture the walls, and the plant dies from the inside out. But the plant doesn't just accept that. It activates a defense. Cold stress triggers a specialized enzyme, beta-amylase, confirmed in peer-reviewed plant biology research that begins breaking down the plant's stored starch into soluble sugars, maltose, glucose, fructose. Those dissolved sugars lower the freezing point of fluid inside every single cell. Same mechanism as salt on an icy road. Same mechanism as the glycol in your car's antifreeze. The plant is manufacturing its own antifreeze from the inside out. And the exact same chemistry that keeps it alive is what makes it taste better than anything you harvested all summer. In kale and Brussels sprouts, those cold-activated sugars neutralize the bitter sulfur compounds glucosinolates responsible for the harsh medicinal bite of summer brassicas. One hard frost and that same leaf becomes sweet, tender, and rich. Same plant, different chemistry. In carrots, parsnips, and beets, the sugar concentrates directly in the root, the plant's primary storage vault, packed with energy reserves it's hoarding to flower next spring. What you're pulling from frozen ground isn't just a vegetable. It's the most sugar-dense, flavor-concentrated version of that plant that will ever exist. The sweetest carrot you will ever eat does not come from a July farmer's market. It comes from frozen ground in November. And the frost you have spent your whole gardening life running from, that frost made it. The timing formula, Persephone Period. Every winter, garden that fails for one specific reason. Not the wrong vegetables, not the cold. The seeds went in too late. Here's how the timeline works. Elliot Coleman discovered something that changes everything. Plant growth doesn't stop because of freezing temperatures. It stops because of light. When daily sunlight drops below 10 hours, vegetative growth shuts down completely in any plant, any climate, even inside a heated greenhouse. Coleman named this the Persephone Period. In most of the continental U.S., it starts between late October and late November and runs 6 to 12 weeks. That window is your hard deadline. Your vegetables don't need to be fully mature when that window opens, but they need to reach at least 75% of their full size before it does. Because once daylight drops below 10 hours, whatever size they are on that date is the size they'll stay until late winter. They won't catch up, they'll just sit there. Here's how you work backward from that deadline. Take the days to maturity number on any seed packet. Add 14 days, Coleman calls this the fall factor, accounting for slower growth as autumn light fades. Then add another 7 to 14 days as a harvest buffer. That total is how many days before your first frost the seeds need to be in the ground. Example, Bloomsdale spinach matures in 42 days. Add 14 for the fall factor. Add 14 for harvest, that's 70 days. First frost around October 25th, which covers most of the Midwest, and Mid-Atlantic means seeds in the ground by August 16th. Mid-August, while it still feels like full summer outside, most gardeners try a fall garden plant in September. That one mistake kills the entire winter harvest before Thanksgiving arrives. Once you see this math, you won't make it again. And now the varieties and hardiness tiers. Not every vegetable survives winter. Far more do than you think. The ones that fail, they fail for one reason most gardeners never catch. It's not the crop, it's the variety. Take spinach. 2 varieties, same species. Flat leaf spinach, what's on every garden center seed rack, collapses at 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter Bloomsdale, a Savoy type with deep wrinkled leaves, survives negative 20 degrees without any cover. The wrinkled leaf traps a micro layer of insulating air against a surface, same principle as a fleece jacket. One physical difference, completely different threshold. Most gardeners grab whatever's on the shelf, skip the variety name, and blame winter for killing plants that were never built for it. Cold season crops break into 3 tiers. Tier 1, the true survivors. Certain spinach varieties, collards, sorrel, negative 20 degrees without flinching. These don't just tolerate cold, they improve in it. Tier 2, the workhorses, mâche, claytonia, leeks, Savoy cabbage. Most gardeners have never grown mâche. That's a mistake. Low-growing rosette green, also called corn salad, thrives at 0 degrees, no tunnel, no cover, almost no maintenance, mild, buttery taste, possibly the single easiest winter crop you'll ever grow. Tier 3, root crops, carrots, parsnips, turnips, chard, cold tolerant, but they need a mulch layer to keep the ground from freezing solid around the roots. Your tier tells you exactly how much protection each crop needs. That's Section 9, the under $30 setup that shifts your entire microclimate by 3 full USDA hardiness zones. Drop your state in the comments right now. Have you ever tried a fall garden? State and yes or no. I read everyone. And now the timing mistake. Here's the mistake, and it's almost universal. Take the spinach math from Section 6, 42 days to maturity. Add 14 for the fall factor. Add 14 for harvest buffer. That's 70 days. First frost. October 25th, seeds in the ground by August 16th. Here's what actually happens. A gardener decides to try a fall garden, walks outside in September, looks at the calendar, thinks fall starts September 21st, perfect timing. Seeds go on September 1st. By September 1st, with a frost on October 25th, there are exactly 54 days left. Not 70, 54. That spinach will be a third of its final size when the first hard freeze arrives. Root not established, leaves thin and fragile. An unprotected seedling at that stage doesn't survive 28 degrees. The water in the young outer cells freezes, the walls rupture, the plant dies from the surface inward. September didn't kill that garden. The decision to wait until September killed it. The gardener who planted too late didn't fail because of harsh weather or the wrong variety. They failed because the action had to happen in mid-August when it still feels like summer. 87 degrees outside, sun blazing, ground warm, everything in your body saying it's not time. That's exactly why most people never crack fall gardening. It requires acting on a calendar instead of a feeling. Two completely different instincts. Every gardener who figures this out says the same thing. Once you stop waiting for fall to feel like fall before you plant for fall, you don't go back. The math doesn't care what the temperature is, it only cares how many days exist before the light disappears. Seeds in the ground on time. Next question, what keeps them alive when the cold actually hits? Under $30. No electricity, 3 full hardiness zones built right in your backyard, and now the bed preparation, no dig. Here's the mistake most gardeners make when prepping a fall bed. They grab a shovel, turn the soil over, break up the clumps, mix in fertilizer, call it ready. It feels productive, it looks like preparation. It's doing the exact opposite of what a fall bed needs. Your garden soil is not inert dirt, it's a living structure. According to USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service research, a single teaspoon of healthy garden soil contains billions of living organisms, bacteria, fungi, nematodes, microarthropods, all actively feeding, decomposing organic matter, and building the loose, open texture that lets roots penetrate deep and fast. Every time you till, you shred that network, collapse the air pockets, sever the mycorrhizal threads plants rely on to pull nutrients from surrounding soil, expose carbon-rich organic matter to oxygen it burns off and vanishes, drag buried weed seeds to the surface where light triggers them to germinate. British horticulturalist Charles Dowding has run side-by-side dig versus no-dig trials for over 30 years. No-dig beds consistently produced higher yields, had fewer weeds, and measured 4% more carbon in the soil compared to identical tilled beds 1 foot away. The correct fall bed prep takes 15 minutes. Spread 1 to 2 inches of finished compost directly on the surface. Don't dig it in. Rake it level. Water once to settle. Plant directly into the top layer. That's it. Earthworms and soil organisms pull that compost downward through fall and winter, distributing nutrients through the root zone without a single shovel stroke from you. By early spring, your bed has been silently improving for 4 to 5 months. Prepared soil is half the equation. What actually determines whether your crops survive a hard winter is what you put over them after planting. Costs less than most people spend on a bag of fertilizer. The reason some gardeners are harvesting fresh greens in January while everyone else is waiting for April. Now, how the protection actually works. Most people think winter garden protection works by blocking cold air out. That's not how it works. And that exact misunderstanding is why most homemade setups fail. Cold air isn't the problem. Heat loss is. Every day, regardless of the month, the sun does its job. Even on a clear January afternoon in Ohio, sunlight strikes exposed garden soil at full intensity. Dark soil absorbs that energy directly. Soil temperature under direct winter sun regularly climbs into the 40s and 50s Fahrenheit, even when the air above it reads 25 degrees. The problem is night. Once the sun drops, the heat the soil collected all day radiates upward and escapes into open air. Within hours, soil temperature falls below freezing. Everything the day built gone. A low tunnel doesn't heat the space inside. It holds the heat that's already there. Solar energy passes straight through the plastic during the day, same as glass. The soil absorbs it. When that warmth tries to escape upward at night, the plastic traps it below. Purdue University's horticulture research documented spinach inside a low tunnel hitting 80 degrees Fahrenheit after an outdoor overnight low of 20 degrees the night before. The tunnel didn't create heat. It held what the sun already deposited. One layer of protection is useful. Two layers together are a different technology entirely. Elliott Coleman's documented system layers lightweight row cover fabric directly over the plants, then stretches clear plastic over wire hoops above it. The air gap between those two layers acts as a thermal buffer, slowing nighttime heat loss at nearly double the rate of either layer alone. That two-layer system creates a 30-degree Fahrenheit differential between inside and outside your bed. 3 full USDA hardiness zones. No electricity, no heating bill, no greenhouse needed. Next section, exactly how to build it. The material list is short, and the cost will surprise you. 3 items. That's the entire list. Half-inch PVC electrical conduit cut into 4 to 6 foot lengths. Bend each into a U shape and push both ends into the soil on opposite sides of the bed, arched about 18 inches above the plants. Space them every 18 to 24 inches down the bed's length. Pre-bent wire hoops from any garden center work equally well for about $8 to $10 for a pack of 10. Floating row cover fabric, the inner layer. Lightweight spun-bonded fabric from any garden center or hardware store. You want 0.5 to 0.9 ounces per square yard. Lay it directly over the plants. It can rest on the leaves without damage. No second frame needed. A roll covering a standard 4x8 bed costs about $10. Clear 4mm plastic sheeting. Painter's plastic from any hardware store, $6 to $8. Over the hoops, above the row cover, creating the air gap. Secure both edges by burying them under a few inches of soil or weighting with boards. Tie off the ends. Total for one standard bed, $24 to $28. The only ongoing task is venting. Any afternoon temperatures climb above 40 degrees and the sun is direct open one end of the tunnel. The inside heats fast. You're managing heat loss at night, not cold during the day. Before sundown, close it back. That's the whole system. Frame, inner fabric, outer plastic, air gap, 20 minutes to build, 30-degree temperature differential, 3 full USDA hardiness zones, no electricity, no heating bill, no greenhouse. The identical 2-layer architecture Elliott Coleman has run on his main farm zone 5, negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit, for 50 years of uninterrupted winter harvests. You have everything now. The timing, the varieties, the soil prep, the protection. If you're realizing you've been walking away from 5 months of harvest every single year, hit subscribe right now. Section 10 is the complete first harvest roadmap. Exactly what to plant this August, in what order, and how the winter garden hands off directly to spring without a single empty week. Here's how you start. Mid-August is your start date. In this order, week 1 of August, winter Bloomsdale spinach and mache. Both are slow to establish and need the full runway. These become your primary winter harvest greens you're cutting from October straight through February. Week 2 of August, kale winter boar or red Russian and claytonia. Kale takes longer to size up, but survives the hardest cold of anything in the garden. Claytonia is mild, succulent, and almost no one grows it. It self-seeds and comes back every year after the first planting. Week 3 of August, carrots Napoli or Bolero, both documented cold-hardy varieties. They don't need to reach full size before frost. They stay in the ground all winter. The longer they sit in frozen soil, the sweeter they get. Pull them as you need them through December and January. First week of September, a second succession of spinach and mache to stagger your harvest window into late winter. Now here's the part most people don't expect. That winter garden doesn't end. It hands off. By late February, daylight climbs back above 10 hours and the Persephone period closes. The same beds that fed you all winter begin waking up. The mache bolts and self-seeds for next fall. The kale pushes new growth. Your spring starts seeded indoors in February, drops straight into beds that have been composting and improving underground since October. No empty weeks, no gap. The garden never stops. Last October, I pulled a full pound of sweet carrots from 28-degree ground while my neighbors were waiting for spring. This August, you can do the same thing. Hit subscribe, drop one final comment. What's the first crop you're planting this August? I read everyone.